Ready?
Yeah, we have a form, so whenever you're ready.
All right, good morning. Welcome to the September 13th Coordinating Committee meeting of the Erie MPO. We have an opportunity for public comment at the beginning and the end of the agenda. At this time, is there any public comment?
Yes, I have public comment. This is Freda Tepfer.
Okay,
I have a kind of a list of them, and they're all related to the agenda. So with MPMS 110836, you mentioned that there an audible countdown. The audible countdown, it mentioned a countdown. Audible countdowns should not be used in conjunction with an accessible pedestrian signal. The MUTCD does not recommend that. So I'm just mentioning that. I'm assuming there's an APS. There was also mention of a possible pedestrian only phase to be used. If there's a pedestrian only phase, there must be an APS. There must be a way for pedestrians who are blind and visually impaired to know what's going on. I'm wondering when there is going to be an APS added at 38th and Green Garden. It was omitted when the other APS signals were done on West 38th. There's been a APS added on West 32nd. There are visually impaired pedestrians and other pedestrians who could use that upgraded signal. MPMS 99729 US 20 Zook to Chestnut. There should be APSs added along West 26th. They have not to date been added. I'm kind of curious what's going on with that. And I see a 109147. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe that's the Central Bayfront project. I sent out a link to the value of time video. And some of us really have a lot of trouble with the description of this project as reducing congestion. As someone who lives in a neighborhood that's constricted in part by the presence of the Bayfront Parkway, I can tell you that while it may be faster for somebody going from Erie to Fairview or Northeast or somewhere, that they may save a few seconds, but it greatly complicates the lives of the people who have to contend with the constriction of their travel options posed by the Bayfront connector. And making a few seconds, saving a few seconds for people traveling across the Bayfront, it's just anomalous. This is exactly not how most transportation planning is being done anymore. These are the kinds of highways that are being removed in places like Seattle and other places. It just defies conception that Erie and the state of Pennsylvania insist on this. The landscaping plan, which attempts to mirror the port landscaping, is inconsistent with current goals for use of native shrubs, trees, grasses, and perennials. Many of the plantings do not utilize native species, and just because there is a port landscaping plan or something that's used by Erie events doesn't mean it's good and should be continued. The DCNR has a native plant, and the cooperative extension have programs to advise on how to make this part of a project. And the landscaping plan as incorporated into the project is retrogressive. Also, I'm hoping, I don't know what you're referring to with the Connecting Communities program on the agenda. And again, if you use this project, the Reconnecting Communities to help pay for the Central Bayfront project, it's a total misunderstanding of the point of Reconnecting Communities. That money ought to be used to replace the pedestrian bridge that was lost due to the inappropriate destruction of the viaduct. The French Street bike path is on the agenda, and I guess I'm curious how local residents are going to deal with the loss of on-street parking along the bikeway. There are terms that you use in the description of the moving around of funding: BIP, HVRU, CRP, CRPU. I spent about 20 minutes last night trying to find some definition for these terms. I looked in the PennDOT and in the USDOT, and I could find nothing, no reference. The only place I could find reference to these terms were in companion MPO agendas from other jurisdictions. It would be helpful and respectful to non-professionals to know what these acronyms mean. So I see that money is being moved. For example, there's money being moved from various funds into the Central Bayfront Parkway project using those terms. 89218 is a betterment project along Pittsburgh Avenue. I noticed that some of the betterment projects are let. I wondered, what is the status of getting sidewalks on Pittsburgh Avenue? Will Mill Creek and the West Erie Plaza be providing sidewalk on the west side of Pittsburgh Avenue along West Erie Plaza, given the large investment that was made in that property? That would be consistent with requirements. For pedestrian safety, sidewalk is badly needed from at least West 21st to West 8th Street. How is it that bicycle projects are getting funded but not sidewalks? What is the status of the strategic planning at EMTA, and when will the public be included? What efforts is EMTA making to get Erie County added to bills in the legislature related to allowing some transit districts to collect sales tax to support transit? I have provided information to EMTA concerning these bills. Thank you.
Thank you. Your comments are duly noted. Is there any other public comment?
I'd like to make a couple of comments.
Certainly.
Jason Spangenberg, the borough manager for the borough of Edinburgh. Just here to speak briefly regarding the 610 Angling Road project, which is currently,
Yeah, we had you on the agenda a little bit further down the road. Is that all right?
I have to get going.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay,
that's
Jason.
fine, that's fine, yeah, okay.
I just want to make a quick comment about it. It is a project number 9833 on the draft tip.
I'd like.
As
Oh,
per the project is,
I'm sorry, are you not hearing us through the owl? I'm sorry, somebody in the room is Jason from Edinburgh is speaking at the moment.
This is at a.
Oh, there.
He's
somebody's
ordering
in the
something
drive-thru?
with whipped cream on it.
Just a second. Let me.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, you're 498 first window.
Thank you.
Go, mute. Sorry about that.
Sorry about that, Jason.
yeah, so I just wanted to mention that this project is as currently drafted, set to not begin design until 2033. This project is most certainly the highest priority for the borough of Edinburgh, and I believe Washington Township as well. Norm and I met with members of the MPO in a meeting within the last 2 weeks or so to discuss the project, but I just wanted to come to the meeting in person to formally request that the MPO make a motion at some point to amend the draft 2025-28 tip to move that project further forward, at least as far as reasonably possible, but further forward than 2033 to begin the design. So, as noted, it is on the agenda later. I do have to get back to the office, but I did want to stop in and mention that watch this will further say that it was on the 2008 6N corridor study. This project was identified, and then the borough in the previous two long range long-range transportation plans, submitted comments to the county that they should be prioritized, which I believe would have been 2016 and 2020 or somewhere around there. So please consider moving that project forward on the draft. And again, of course, understanding that it regardless would still probably be outside of this TIP 2028 range, but sooner than 2033 would be appreciated. So any questions, feel free to give me a call at the meeting, but I'll get back to that.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Any other public comment? Hearing none, if you've had a chance to review the minutes from the June 21st coordinating committee meeting, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So. Second it.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on the agenda, 2023 to 2026 Transportation Improvement Program. We do have two amendments to vote on. And if Brandon Leach is on with us, we'll welcome Brandon for his update.
Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, sir. So I just wanted to touch on, first I was going to touch on the financial modifications to the 2023 Erie TIP. Since the August 10th, I think it was 10th or 9th, the last TAC meeting, there were 13 administrative actions done, and I'll cover those separately from the two amendments we're voting on too. So they are included in your packet here, but I'll walk down through a couple of the higher level ones, and then I can always take questions if people have for ones covered or not covered. So I'll go first to administrative action number 3, or I should say administrative modification number 3. This modification was to increase funds to cover low bid plus inspection results for the Niemeyer Road Bridge project. We have funding, federal BOF funds were added to the construction phase for this project in 2023 and 2024, the federal fiscal years, that is, of 23 and 24. The source was the Erie Highway Bridge line item. And in addition to these addition of funds from the BOF funds, $95,000 in the state 183 funds were removed from the project and returned to the Erie Highway Bridge line item. I was going to also cover administrative modification number 5. If you want to scroll to that. That action is to increase and cover low bid plus inspection results for the Zook Road, Zimmerly to 26th Street project. And I know Fred had mentioned a couple of the terminologies that weren't clear, so I'll attempt to explain those a little bit while I talk about some of these actions too. So this project was adding from the planning partners allocation of federal carbon reduction program funds. That's what the CRP stands for. And then the CRPU is actually the urban allocation. So quick explanation there is that the CRP funds can be allocated to all planning partners in the state based on formula funding like we do with other federal programs like STP and HPP. But the CRPU funds were an additional amount that was added to the Erie TIP based on their urbanized area. So in all, the combination of both these funds were added to the construction phase of this project in federal fiscal year 2023, and the source was the Erie Bill IIJA line item. I'll touch on administrative act modification number 6 next. This was adding an Act 13 bridge. I might butcher the name, I apologize. Gudgeonville Road Bridge was added to the program using a combination of Act 13 and local funds. And this was done also in federal fiscal year 2023. And the last one I was going to cover for this list of projects were administrative modifications 12 and 13. This was an action done after the amendment we had done for the Central Bayfront Parkway, the latest low bid cost increase that we talked about last meeting. This was done to basically cash flow, a cash flow exercise of the state 185 funds on the project from federal fiscal year 2023 to 2031 to the amount of $500,000. So small amount for the project as a whole, but still considered a modification for this project. So I'll pause. I can pause now before going to the informational items if anyone has any questions about items I've covered or ones that were not touched on.
Any questions of Brandon on the financial modifications? I'd continue on then, Brandon, please.
Okay, thank you. All right, so there were a total of 2 informational items then that were done through the basically statewide line item with PennDOT. The first one I'll touch on is administrative action to add 3 bridges on Old Route 99 Lamson Run. These bridges are bridges 1, 2, and 3. Is adding it to the current program, and the statewide STP reserve line item was used to add these projects, the funding for these projects in fiscal years 2023 and 2024. And then the second informational item was an administrative modification to the 2023 tip to advance HVRU funds, and I'll clarify that as well since it wasn't done on the meeting packet. HVRU is a subset of Highway Safety Improvement Program funds, or what we also refer to as HSIP funds, but is utilized specifically for the VRU side, which is vulnerable road users. And this is basically due to a requirement we had from the FHWA to utilize 15% of our Highway Safety Improvement Program funding allocation towards projects that improve vulnerable road users. These are non-motorized users of the road. They include pedestrians, bicyclists, basically anyone using the road that's not in a motorized vehicle. So to go back to the explanation, this was advancing the HVRU component of the Bayfront project, and basically advancing the funds from federal fiscal years 2025 and 2026 forward to federal fiscal year 2023. And the HSIP set aside reserve statewide line item was used as the balancing source for that. So no gain or loss in funding there, just a cash flow exercise. With that being said, I'll take any questions for the informational items, if anyone has.
Any questions for Brandon? If not, we do have item C, which is an amendment. Brandon, do you want to take that, or Emily, you gonna present
I
it?
think that was Emily, unless, I mean, I can certainly talk to it too.
So this amendment is adding the Front Street bike lane back to the tip. It was previously on our 2019 tip and just did not get rolled over to the 2023 tip. So we do need to vote to put it back on the tip, and it would be funded with the CRP, so that carbon reduction program funding. So it's not costing any other projects to put it on. This is a new federal funding source we're receiving, the CRP. So the MPO does need to vote if you would like to add a new project to the tip.
I'll call for a motion for the amendment.
I'll make that motion.
And a second.
I'll second it.
Alrighty. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Then we have a second amendment, Emily, if you could brief us on that? Or is this more of a Brandon?
I can talk about
Okay.
this one too. This is, the removal of a project from the TIP. So it actually was fully funded on the 2021 TIP. So we don't need any more federal funds for this project. So because it's still technically removing a federally funded project from our TIP, the MPO still has to vote. So even though it's a technicality, if the project was already funded, the MPO still has to vote. So if someone could make a motion to remove the project, we can get that straightened out.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, made that amendment as well then. Emily, you have an update on the Bayfront e-ballot that you sent out?
Yes,
Okay.
I wanted to share the voting results with everyone. Thank you for everyone who did vote by e-ballot for the Bayfront amendment. There were 20 people who voted out of the 23 voting members, so that's a great turnout, so thank you very much for that. And it was all in favor, so 20 votes in favor, none opposed, and none abstained.
There's no other motion that needs done then?
Nope.
Okay, all right. Okay, Brandon, you gonna hang around? It looks like you're gonna talk to us a little bit later in the agenda as well.
Yep, I'll be on, so.
Thank you. Moving on to the Bayfront Central Corridor Multimodal Project Update with PennDOT.
Yep, and I'll lead off with this. I think we talked about last time.
Hi, Rob. How are you? It's doing great, thank you. Yeah, I'm not, you know what, I'm really feeling good. I actually.
Thanks. We talked about the bids last time and the funds and things needed, so there's no real update to the Central Bayfront project other than that, we expect the contractor to start very soon, and we'll have more information about that soon. We've been told they would start next week, but exactly what they would be doing first, I haven't gotten that information yet, so stay tuned for that. The Reconnecting Communities grant topic that is related, that is a competitive federal grant that was part of the IIJA and bill. I think this is the second round? So yeah, it was out there. We applied for it in the past for the proposed bridge at Sassafras, the pedestrian bridge. We're taking a different look at this funding opportunity this time, and the applications are being received right now until around the end of September, sometime last week of September. We had a couple of internal discussions as to whether or not we were ready to try for this grant again. And ultimately where we stand right now is that we think we are in a place where we can apply. Now, as a related topic, the Port Authority recently completed a East Side active transportation study. So we had a public meeting for that on August 15th at the Port Authority building. They used funding that was I think was partially or maybe totally funded by state multimodal funds from the multimodal deputy for that study. And that really, the genesis of it was public meetings around the Bayfront project. So this is all sort of a domino effect of projects and studies, needs being identified. But it was Ed Kissel who came to us at one of those meetings and shared some ideas of where he thought there were some gaps on the east side, and he had a map that he had drawn some trails on and some ideas on. It was really just a conversation starter. The port agreed that it was worth exploring further, but his ideas were centered on the Soldiers and Sailors Home. Since we built the new bridge over the railroad there, he had some ideas. That's what generated the East Side Active Transportation Study. It's just about finalized. We're still receiving public comment on that after it was presented to elected officials and the public. But basically, it's a handful of sidewalk and trail improvements and things of that nature on the east side, mostly sort of along the Bayfront Parkway and along East Front Street between Holland, all the way to the Soldiers and Sailors Home. And then there's a couple of ideas of how you might more easily get bikes and pedestrians across the Bayfront Parkway there and even further east to the Land Lighthouse. So a bunch of different concepts wrapped up in that study. At the same time, we have had funding for on the west side on the Bayfront Parkway. We were looking at a pedestrian bridge there as one possibility to go for this funding that's available now. We decided to take a step back and broaden our view. So right now we're looking again at what was the original corridor study for the Parkway. They covered everything from 12th Street to 12th Street. But for this west side reconnecting communities portion, we're looking at 12th Street to roughly Sassafras, where the new sidewalk was just built going up the bluff. So basically we have, between the two efforts, we have east and west side with, I think, several, at least 10 or so little improvements along there to help get people to basically from the city to the water. It's kind of acknowledged as part of all that, the Bayfront Parkway is often discussed as a barrier. But what we don't talk about really is that the bluff has always been a natural barrier. We've got a Class 1 railroad over on the east side. We removed a portion of that for the Central Bayfront project, but that's obviously a barrier that kind of needs to be overcome too. So I think it's a lot of good improvements, and we're working on the application now. And we hope to submit soon. We've been in discussions with the city and the port, and only just recently, discussing it with Emily. And so we wanted to bring it up here and just let everybody know it's something we're working on. Another opportunity, again, IIJA brought a ton of formula funding into every region, but it also presented this opportunity of all of these different competitive programs. And we don't want to sit back when we think we have, good projects for funding like that. We're going to do everything we can to try to get that money here in Erie and for the district and other parts of the district. As far as the state, the whole statewide PennDOT, in our discussions with the program center, this is the only project or the best project for this round of funds. So each organization is limited. I can't remember, Courtney, do you know how many PennDOT could go for?
I think three.
Three. So
Normally they're three for most of these.
yeah, so if the whole state and the whole state of Pennsylvania for PennDOT as an organization, we would be maxed out at three. Now, what we're told is there are no other really eligible candidates. So this is our best chance as far as PennDOT goes. So we're wanting to partner with the city and the port to try to make that happen. A lot of the port owns a lot of the bluff and some different pieces of property that would be affected. So it makes sense that they'd be a partner in this too. I have been.
Okay, great. Thank you, Brian. Any questions of Brian? I don't want to open it up, but if not, we'll move on. Emily, there's sounds like an expansion possibly of the TISMO program with the message boards. Is that correct?
Yeah, so
Okay.
this is the second round of TISMO applications. So about 2 years ago, if anyone remembers, the Erie MPO applied for these funds for dynamic message boards along the highways. And we were awarded two, one at 79 and Interchange Road and 90 and Peach Street. So I actually don't know exactly the status. They're not there yet. If anyone could fill in the status on those, that would be great. But there is another funding round available. So PennDOT District 1 put together an application for the MPO to submit for 4 more dynamic message board locations around the county. So if awarded, the MPO would be responsible for a 20% match on the tip. So hopefully we'll get a few of these, and then I know Courtney is very good at finding the money for the matches of these things without hurting any other projects. So I just wanted to let everyone know that the MPO officially applied for these 4 locations for dynamic message boards. And if you have any more information on the status of the 2 that we were awarded in the
Definitely.
last round.
Yes, so the one at 90 and 19 is going to be, it should be advertised right now, and it's actually going to be let tomorrow. We will be getting bids tomorrow, on that one, the last I knew, and the one at 79 interchange, those bids are supposed to open on November 2nd. So both of those should be in construction next summer.
I'm sorry, where was that one on 79?
At interchange. Yep. And those ones, when we did it the last time, that was funded 50% off of the regional tip, 50%. And as Emily said, this time we're only gonna be looking for 20% match, so. It's a good thing. That was all I had.
Okay, all right, great. Now, I'm looking at the application. Who submitted? The MPO did, correct?
Technically, yes, the MPO has to apply,
Okay,
PennDOT cannot.
okay,
So the MPO did apply for this, so I hit the enter button
okay, all
for
right,
these.
okay,
I will say though, PennDOT was heavily involved in actually creating the applications and putting everything together.
okay. All right, okay.
And this, I will say, I included just a single application. There were actually 4
Okay.
separate applications that were submitted, but they were all pretty much the same. They're all just dynamic message boards at different locations.
All righty, moving on though, let's see, Courtney. More updates for us?
Yes, so, we've had a month. You guys had the documents that we talked about last month on the 2025 draft tip. So I wanted to open it up for any questions that you guys might have had on any of the projects or anything that was proposed. Before I open it up, I will talk about the 6N and Angling Road project. We did meet with the borough and the township, the MPO and members of PennDOT met. Just the end of August? Wasn't that long ago, within the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
As Jason had mentioned, to talk about that particular intersection as it had been a part of the 2008 6N study. And then it has been on the long range transportation plan on the tip for the last few years. After we talked with them, there are low cost options that can be explored at that intersection for immediate changes that we could potentially then see an improvement in the safety without harming the, I can't think of the word, but the use of it, I cannot think of what.
Operations.
Yes, yeah, so of it. So what they're looking at doing is we're looking at doing some striping on the road and making it so that it would be one direction going off of 6N onto Angling Road. And so that all the traffic coming off of Angling Road would have to hit at the T instead of coming and splitting off. There's the potential for possibly making it one way, the city road, the borough road that's right there, one way. The county maintenance is also interested in seeing improvements made at that intersection. So we're just looking at how the best way to do the work and fund it. We're looking at doing it in the spring. And we'll work with them to do that. So as for Jason's request for the project to be moved up, as we're doing a low cost safety improvement like this, we need to have some years of data on what the improvements that we do at that intersection, what that means, and whether or not further work needs to be done at the intersection, or whether that the work that we would be doing as part of that low cost would be sufficient. So we are proposing leaving it right now on the tip in the outer 4 years for this one. And then in 2 years, when we're looking at the 2027 tip, we would have some sort of an idea as to what that intersection looks like with those improvements being made. And then we could potentially talk about advancing it at that point in time, but we can't really know we won't know right now, and to bump other projects, not so sure. We think it might be best to do the low cost, see how that works, and then go from there on what a project might look like. So with that, any questions on the projects that were presented last month?
No,
Was the format, everything was with the showing the design years and light years of roadway projects and everything for bridges, was that useful for everybody? Continue doing that right now?
yes.
Okay. If there are still questions, we are still working. If there's changes on it, there will be additional, bridges added. We have some, funding in the last 8 years, of the TIP for bridges right now that we haven't accounted for. So there will be some additions. We'll be sharing those as we get closer to December and it's locked down in MPMS, before we go to public comment in the spring. But, for the most part, the roadway one, it's pretty set. No one has come forward and asked for anything to be changed. The data is matching what we have programmed. So that's probably pretty set. Moving into December, the bridges, like I said, we'll be seeing some changes. I'll share them. We'll go over again in December, just in case anyone has questions one last time. But email me at any time if anything comes up.
Great.
Courtney, do you really want to,
Yes.
really quick, just go
Yes.
over what the BRP means and BOF?
Oh, yes, I can talk about what those funding types are, yes. So, on this one for the bridges, if you see a BOF, that is the bridge off the federal, it's considered bridge off network. What you will see those funds being able to be used for are any NBIS structure that is 20 feet or longer, that is on a lower functional classification highway. So, one that is considered, federal aid, but it might be a local bridge. You'll see us using the BOF funds on that. One that might be on a lower, network road, a 4-digit SR, some 3-digit SRs, you'll see us be able to use those funds. Those are federal funds. The BRIP funding is the new bridge funding that was allocated as a part of Bill and IIJA. It's a subset of the roadway funding that they gave us that we are specifically supposed to use towards NBIS structures over 20 feet on any roadway. So, that's where you'll see that funding be spent. 185 is state bridge funding, so it can be used on any bridge that is over 8 feet on any state roadway. Or it can also be used to help with local bridges. When you're looking, we don't have any of the fund types, but quickly I'll go over the ones that you would see when you're looking at the TIP when we send it out for the roadway side. So there's NHPP, that's a federal fund. That is the National Highway Improvement Fund. It's for any NHS designated road. We can use it for bridges or for roadway improvements. The STP is a Surface Transportation Program fund. That can be used on any federal aid route. That's the one that we use for local federal aid routes, anything like that. It can be used for roadway improvements or bridge improvements. Brandon talked about the HSIP and those subsets of that. Then in the CRP, so the last one would be 581, and that's the state fund that can be used on any state roadway. It has to be a state asset, and it can be used for roadway improvements or bridge improvements. And I think that's all of them. So.
Thanks, Courtney. Next, is it the Fairview? Want to touch on that? Yep, the Mark Januso show.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Januso, one of the supervisors of Erie Township. I am the appointee to the coordinating committee. Typically I prefer via Zoom, so I haven't been in a room with a lot of you. But I'm here today to talk a little bit about a much needed, long overdue traffic study that was conducted thanks to the efforts of the MPO and Emily along our Route 98 and Route 20 corridor.
If you go to that page 24 at the back, I'll show you that, the first thing we want you to see is, through those efforts, we came up with, a list of 8 different items that we'd like to, consider implementation of, obviously within the next 20, 30 plus years. Since a good number of them are sizable and costly. But the first one, and the one that I'm here to talk about today, is our proposed McCray Road Buckingham Place roundabout. So, Emily, if you go to slide, like this is page 12. So up there, it's not easy to see on the screen, I know. But there is a, specifically that map there, I want to draw your attention to the 3 green structures to the right, to the east of Route 98, correct? That is the entirety of Fairview School District's campus. The high school, middle school, and elementary school are all on one campus, all on one stretch of Route 98 in McCray Road. Fairview has seen a significant growth, not only from a census point of view. We increased 10% between 2010 and 2020. We went from 10,000 residents to 11,000 residents. And interestingly enough, beginning with the kindergarten class in 2018 and 19, which was ironically the class my daughters are in, that class and every subsequent class, typically a kindergarten class is about 100 kids. And beginning with my daughter's kindergarten class in 2018, 2019, enrollment at the school was up 20%. And every subsequent kindergarten class, except for this year's, increased by 20%. This year's only went up 16%. So they have 116 kindergarten students as opposed to typically they have 100 every year. What that tells us is we're reversing at the seams, not only in our schools, but we've got an intense amount of residential growth and expansion. We've got multiple neighborhoods popping up, and we have a neighborhood just to the east of the campus there, just behind the high school. We have a brand new neighborhood that will consist of 21 6-unit apartments, so 126 units. And that's on McCray Road, and those folks, if they want to access either the school or I-90 or get on Route 20 to head west, they're all going to kind of convene at McCray Road and Route 98. So as you can see on the right side, there's a conceptual rendering of what the roundabout would look like. Essentially, it would jog to the north a little bit, and that's school district property, and our school district, school board, and superintendent, and everyone is definitely on board with this project. And it would tie together the neighborhood that is Buckingham Place at the bottom of that picture. So this project is extremely important to us. We feel that we know this is our primary access point to our campus, especially the high school. It's closest of the 3 structures to McCray Road and Route 98. And I've had my fair share of brand new high school drivers, and I can tell you they are not very good yet. And so that particular intersection, which is just one northbound and one southbound lane, without turning lanes or anything else, would greatly improve if we could, get a roundabout in its future. So Emily has suggested I come before the board and talk a little bit about this and see if there's a consideration for, I believe the way you said it, and I was looking at it again, you said, I could, but I don't know if I should, create a motion for a new project to get on the LRTP, a new tip funded project to get on the LRTP. I'm kind of new to the MPO as a whole. Emily has been giving me some baby steps as I work through all this, but, I think this is a necessary project. If anybody's not familiar with Fairview Township and specifically Route 98, on that picture there, as traffic is coming from the right to the left, so they're coming south to north. It is slopes downhill somewhat, and we do have the RRFBs right there. And I have watched repeatedly people press that button and oncoming traffic does not honor the fact that there is somebody standing right there at the edge on the berm trying to cross. So, this is the best way we think to not only reduce the speed of traffic, but make entry and exiting from our campus, much safer. So, Emily, I guess I would look to you. Am I supposed to say anything more, or is that good enough? What would you have me do?
Well, I think that's lovely.
Okay.
I think, because it's not on the LRTP yet, I know we discussed this, ideally, in the next round of the LRTP updates, it would be added to the LRTP and then placed on the tip in one of the outer years. So thinking like 2033 to 36 timeframe. And Courtney, I don't know if there is any slush funds in the 2033 to 36 categories to add a project now in the TYP in those outer years or not. I mean, there might not be at this point, because it's a little hard to predict how much money we're going to get in like 2036. So I guess I would turn it over to you at PennDOT to see if there's funding available in those outer years.
So at this point in time in 2033 to 2036, we do not have any excess funds that we are looking for projects in order to be able to fund. The best bet would probably be to add it to the LRTP, and then as we move forward, figuring out how it would rank with other projects on the LRTP that we have programmed in those outer years, and would it be one that it's been determined now, maybe that is a higher priority than other ones that we have, and then we could look at adding that one and delaying another project. But probably first steps, like you said, would be adding it, getting it added to the LRTP, and then as we look at updating it, getting those ranked so that we have a priority order for that. Would be my guess.
Okay.
Would that be placed on the next agenda to have it, make a motion to have it added, or is that something we do now?
You could probably do it now. I mean, I think we can add projects to the LRTP at any time.
That's true, we can.
It just doesn't have a priority ranking, but if a grant opportunity came up and Fairview wanted to go for it, a lot of times they will ask for, is it supported by the MPO, and is it listed on any plans and on the LRTP? So if you wanted to, to support it, and then there was an opportunity for them to say, go for a grant, then they would be able to do that while they were waiting for it to be put on the tip in the future. So.
What do you
Updates.
think, or be able to put it on the next agenda so that people can kind of digest it a little
You
bit?
could put it on for the next.
Are you okay
few
with that,
meetings,
Mark?
And then.
Yeah.
This is Dave Mitchell. Can you hear me?
Yes, Dave.
I think that we need to put it on. The big thing is, I don't know if you've had any conversation with Congressman Kelly's office. There are going to be, I'm sure, within the next couple of years, a lot of different ways of this infrastructure money, et cetera, being doled out. And I believe it would be pertinent to put it on the plan as far as, if a grant does come up, you have that step out of the way for future development. I'd also like to, I've shown Congressman Kelly the Scioto Road Route 6 intersection, which is particularly needed, roundabout is needed out there. We haven't gotten anything together like Fairview. I congratulate them. But the congressman is tuned into these types of improvements. But you never know. We just got a grant that came out of nowhere from the federal government because we were prepared with grants already in place just to put into Washington. And you always have to be proactive through this the next 4 to 5 years. So I would recommend that at least you put it on the consideration list. And, you know, if something does come up, it's a good project.
I think what we're talking for next 2 meetings, right?
Yeah.
Put that on,
Yeah.
okay,
Cause that would still, you'd be done by December.
right,
You know, it would still be within this year, so.
okay. Okay,
Does PennDOT have this study? Have we received it? Yeah. Have you seen it, Courtney?
I haven't seen it, but Lindsay might have it.
Okay,
Lindsay, have you seen it?
you got it. I was gonna say, in our traffic unit, were they involved in the study or did they have any review?
Yes,
Okay, great.
yeah.
Good. Looks like a great project.
Yeah, Greg Mazer and Brian and Ed, a lot of them came to the meetings.
Good.
So, yeah, they were heavily involved in this.
great. Thank you, Mark, appreciate it. Alrighty, agency updates, and
I can go through some updates. Since we went through the newsletter last month, there's not a whole lot of new updates, so this will be pretty brief. But jumping into the newsletter, I think Brian already covered the Central Bayfront, so I'll skip that one. Bayfront Parkway at 6th Street, that lets tomorrow. So moving on to Depot Road. Previously, we were still working on 3 claims to settle. We're down to our last one. And we had some conversations with central office recently about working through that last parcel. So we're still working at our best pace to meet the December let date. The Erie Loop Bikeway project, that one we're getting ready to go out for another advertisement, re-advertisement that should be happening here soon. Jordan Road over I-80, we're currently setting up or scheduling to have the soil borings obtained so that we can do the foundation report, foundation design. The consultant's also working on the design field view submission and preliminary right-of-way plans. Once we get that information in, we'll be working on setting up public involvement for that bridge project. 20 Mile Creek Bridge, Route 20, over 20 Mile. Consultant finished their inspections and they sent in some rehabilitation options and some pricing. So the bridge unit's looking over those options now and looking at available funds, but that'll eventually get us working towards a TSNL submission. The Route 19 resurfacing project, that's on Peach Street from Oliver Road to Rotunda Drive. We just recently got our design consultant on board. So they'll be starting into the preliminary design of that. That should be a pretty quick turnaround. It's scheduled to let in March, and with it being a resurfacing project, it should go pretty quickly. The last thing worth mentioning is the old 99 local bridge project. We recently did get the environmental document approved, and the design field view submission has been submitted to our district office. It's being reviewed concurrently. So we should be able to be finishing up preliminary engineering and moving into final design very soon on that project. So any other projects or questions?
When is the project, 99 bridges?
Next summer. I don't have the let date, but yeah, sometime next summer.
Depot, you said there's one issue still.
Yes.
Is it?
Truck stop. Is the truck stop portion.
Okay.
Yeah. all the golf course, that's all settled, those claims have been, we're good there. It's just the
Okay.
truck stop, so.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mark. Moving on to federal updates. Ronique or Abby, are you joining us today?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so my counterpart from FTA isn't on today, so it'll just be me. Um, so a couple things that I took note on as we had the meeting today. Um, there are some resources that I can send out to you guys for more clarity and explanation on the new funding sources that has come out of the new transportation bill. So I can provide that information. We have the U.S. Department of Transportation has a bill website that has fact sheets and guidance on the new funding sources that came out of the bill. So I'll provide those direct links, and I can also provide some of the direct links to the funding sources that was mentioned during the meeting today, such as the Bridge Off Funds and the BRIP funds, and as far as like the vulnerable road users and the HSIP funds as well. So Highway Safety Improvement Program funds, sorry. So yeah, I can definitely highlight those and send direct links to those. Oh yeah, the carbon reduction program as well. So I did take those notes down, and I can kind of highlight that to you guys. So you guys have it in front of you in case you want to learn more. And then there's also as Courtney mentioned earlier, the different things that the Department of Transportation looks for in grant applications. We do have I guess like a toolkit or like a checklist for prospective applicants to these discretionary grants. So it kind of has everything out in front of you, the things that you would have to consider, the things that we look for when awarding funds to projects. So I can definitely provide that link to you guys as well. So you have it in front of you. Um, and then also, speaking of grants, you guys probably recently heard about this, but just the other day, USDOT announced the Thriving Communities Grant Program. This grant program specifically provides technical assistance to under-resourced or disadvantaged communities to help them identify, develop, and deliver transportation and community revitalization opportunities. So I definitely encourage folks to look into this notice of funding opportunity. There's also some upcoming webinars on this NOFO this month. One is actually on the 15th, but then there's others sprinkled throughout the month, kind of like in the later weeks. There's one on September 20th and another one on September 27th. But no worries if you can make these webinars. They're recorded and posted on the funding source website itself. So I will definitely send this information your way. And another thing that I wanted to bring up as well is that a couple weeks ago, not a couple weeks ago, actually a month ago, sorry, in August, the U.S. Access Board published a Federal Register notice to finalize the public right-of-way accessibility guidelines, also known as PROWAG. And the purpose of PROWAG is to ensure that pedestrian facilities located in the public right-of-way are readily accessible to and usable by pedestrians with disabilities. So that final Federal Register notice is out. The final rule on the PRORAG is out, and I can provide more information on that. Let me see. There's another one that I wanted to kind of highlight amongst. I feel like I have a lot of announcements, and as always, I'll send this out after the meeting today. But the last thing that I wanted to say is that Federal Highways is seeking public comments on the agency's intention to collect information from states and MPOs. So this is specifically related to the planning and research work programs, the progress reports and financial reports. So we're talking about the like Erie's UPWP, for instance. And this is in relation to 23 CFR Part 420 that talks about the planning and research work programs that are in the regulations. So this is published as a notice in the Federal Register to request public comments. And that public comment period closes on October 2nd. So I took a look at the notice the other day. It's pretty straightforward. It's not long. So yeah, if you're interested in looking at that or providing any comments, definitely feel free to do so. And yeah, that's all I had. That's all I wanted to highlight to you guys today. Um, Let me see. Is there anything else? I don't have anything else at the moment. But yeah, as always, I thank you guys for your time, and I'll follow up with these links and additional information. So unless anybody has anything else for me, I can just pass it on.
Great. Thank you, Ronique. Appreciate it. Is there any questions of Ronique? No? Okay. Thanks again for joining us. Appreciate it. Brandon, are you still with us, buddy?
Yes, I am.
All
Can you
righty.
hear me okay? Sounds like it. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so I just had a couple updates from the PennDOT central office side. So the first one I had was regarding the transportation alternative set aside application period. As I've mentioned a couple in previous meetings, that the pre-application deadline has passed. There were a total of 160 applications across the state, with 48 self-identified safe routes to school projects. And at this point, there were also 134 meetings completed between the districts and the applicants to finalize for their final application submissions. And just a reminder that final applications are due basically, Friday, so September 15th. And award announcements for these TASA program funds will be late winter to early spring of 2024. And I'll share, and all this information, like Ronique's, I'll share in a follow-up email that will have all the applicable links as well for you to go to if you so choose. So also I want to touch on the round one of the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Formula Program, or as we mostly refer to as NEVI. So the first conditional awards for the NEVI Formula Program were announced on August 14th. And while this is not a traditional program in highway, bridge, and transit sense, we're still following federal regulations, process, and procedures in terms of project planning, programming, delivery, and authorization. With that being said, Erie County was a recipient of one of these conditional awards. It was a $1.1 million award for a charging station at the TA Travel Plaza off of exit 35 on Route 90. And it's going to say so the NEVI program itself will be included in the State Transportation Improvement Program statewide items program. So they'll be marked on the tip, but they won't necessarily need to be programmed through actions on the Erie tip. So round two of this program, details are anticipated to come out relatively soon, fall of 2023, and this round will focus on building out the remaining interstate highway alternative fuel corridor gaps, or AFCs for short, as well as non-interstate AFCs. And I'll be sharing links to 3 items related to NEVI as well. The first will be a PDF list of all the round 1 conditional awards, a map that will show you the location of all those awards, link to that, as well as a link to the federal fiscal year 2024 NEVI plan update. Since this plan will be updated, it's a living document, so every year it will be updated to reflect changes as they come up. And the last thing I wanted to touch on was the Pennsylvania Carbon Reduction Program update. So as we've discussed a little bit earlier in the meeting, each region, each planning partner has been allocated Carbon Reduction Program or CRP funds on their tips, but there wasn't as much of a direction on how that money should be allocated. So we're at this point in cooperation with district, the planning partners, PennDOT, and FHWA to determine eligibility based on the requirements listed for the project. I'm sorry, for the funding type, the guidance. I was searching for the word there, the guidance documentation that's out for CRP. But Pennsylvania is currently developing their carbon reduction strategy document. This document is due to FHWA for review on November 15th. There has been a steering committee that's been developing and reviewing this documentation, which it is in conjunction with federal partners, state partners, MPOs and RPOs, and as well as PennDOT districts across the state. So when this is finalized, we will have more of a direction as to how this funding will go as a strategic motion going forward to ultimately use the money to reduce carbon output on our roads and transportation system. So with that being said, those are all the updates I came with today, unless there are any questions.
Brandon, I just have one question. Did you say $1 million for a charging station?
It's basically, it's for I don't know all the details for it, but that was the application that was put in. And so I'm assuming it's a number of different stations,
sure,
like charging ports, but yes.
Yeah, but at one location.
1.1 million was awarded for that. Yep, and my the PDF I'll send out will give a breakdown of all the locations across the state.
No, wow.
Yeah,
and electric cars are cheaper. Okay. All right, thank you, Brandon. I appreciate it.
I think there's a hand up. I see someone online there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's Dave Robinson at EMTA. No, I was going to ask you how many actual charging stations were anticipated in that $1 million expenditure, but it sounds like you're going to get that to us. So that's all I had.
Okay. Oh, you were kind of breaking up. Were you asking how many charging ports were included with that?
Yeah, I think he.
Okay. I don't know if it was my end or his.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The weather's terrible out here right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't have those details, but I may be able to find them if I do some outreach to the actual committee that reviewed the applications. I'm sure they have those details I could get to you.
Thanks, Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and speaking of EMTA,
okay, thanks.
There's nobody here, correct, from EMTA? So
Dave.
Yeah, Dave.
Are you, if your connection's okay?
Are you in the Caribbean in a hurricane, Dave, or where are you? Hello, Dave.
Union City of all places. So can you hear me okay?
Right now, yes, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me now? Okay,
Yes.
just some quick updates. We've got 6 new large buses in production that we should be receiving at the end of the year. They're all CNG. That'll allow us to retire 6 of our diesel burners and move us ahead with our plan to reduce all our particulate pollutions. We held our DBE triennial goal setting methodology public input session in August, and it went very well. We actually had some good participation. But if Ronique is still on the line, I had a question. Will the recent Supreme Court decision on affirmative action impact the disadvantaged business enterprise program? Are you hearing anything about that at DOT? Other than that, I don't really have a whole. Yeah, can you go ahead and answer?
Yeah, I am
Is that
not
you, Renee?
completely, yeah, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can't answer that. We do have a civil rights specialist in our division office, and he's involved with all of that. So I can definitely relay your question to him. You were saying the recent, sorry, can you repeat that again? I was trying to type it out as you were saying, but
When the Supreme Court ruled against affirmative action, I've seen it trickle into some other programs, and I'm just wondering whether it's going to impact the DBE programs that
okay.
paid in.
Okay, I'll definitely ask that question and we'll follow up with you.
Okay, sounds good. That's all I had.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to other business. There's some public comment opportunities. Emily?
Yeah, I just quickly wanted to say that the Bayfront and Cranberry traffic signal is out for public comment on PennDOT's website. You can click on the links in the agenda to go to the pages. And the East Side Active Transportation Plan is also open for public comment. This is the one that Brian was talking about earlier with the Reconnecting Communities grant that PennDOT wants to apply for. So if anyone wants more details on that study or to leave comments, please do. It's open for comments at this time. And the last thing is the Erie to Quarry Trail feasibility study and tourism analysis was completed through the Erie County Planning Office. And you can also read that report. There's a link to the website on the agenda for that trail. And that's all I have.
And that is Thursday evening?
There is a stakeholder meeting on Thursday evening at the Erie County Planning Office.
Okay.
At this point, it is specifically for stakeholders, but the actual draft report is open to everyone to read.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Yeah, yes, I have some additional comments. This is Freda.
Okay.
So, what public involvement occurred to apply reconnecting communities to sidewalks from 12th to SAS instead of the pedestrian bridge? In other words, what is the public involvement about whatever it is you're planning to do around the Sassafras Bridge or the alternatives to it? How is Federal Highways, MPO, and PennDOT assisting local jurisdictions and NGOs to apply for funding to improve transportation access, betterment projects, HVRU, now that I know what it means, projects, as mentioned by David Mitchell? I know there's a plethora of things out there, but maybe a couple of standalone events open to the NGOs and the community and some of the jurisdictions might be appropriate. So the 2025 draft tip includes the betterment projects. I wondered, how can they be moved forward? Can betterment projects not otherwise funded be funded with HVRU money? When can HVR money be used? What sort of roads? What category of funding could a sidewalk on Pittsburgh Avenue be qualified for? Oh gosh, I've got my gremlin is back. Just a moment. Does it have a state road designation? Pittsburgh Avenue is on the active Erie list, as well as the Betterment Project 89218, which is on the 2025 list. Please share Ronique's information on funding, etc., when she sends it to the MPO, the toolkit, the checklist, etc. The Access Board is doing a webinar on PROAG on Thursday, October 5th from 2:30 to 4 p.m. People can sign up at the Access Board website, and if they can't attend, they can always listen to the recording. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi, everybody. This is Ronique again from Federal Highway. I just wanted to mention that if the MPO wants to have something to where, you know, Federal Highways talks more about the bill funding programs and things that are coming out of that, I wouldn't mind doing like a short presentation or something of that manner. We've been doing it with other planning partners that have requested something similar. So just let me know and we can set something up, and we can see what specific things you would want more clarity on, or more in depth on when it comes to bill. So yeah, just let me know. I just wanted to offer that.
Thanks, Ronnie. Appreciate it. If no other public comment, our next Tech Advisory Committee is November 8th. Is it also here?
Yes.
At Summit Township? Thank you to Mark Welka for his hospitality today. And if there's no other public comment, I have a motion to adjourn. Second. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.